What's up, guys? I almost gave you a little nip slip there. Sorry about that. I don't know what's on my shirt here either. Okay, I'm a mess. What's up, guys? We're back. I got a, I'm not injured. I got I got a tattoo touched up on my fingers. We got a CivDiv video here. If you don't know CivDiv, you're wrong, because you do. This is CivDiv here. He's got a ton of subscribers. He's been in Ukraine. He's been in Syria. He's been in Afghanistan. He was in the Marine Corps. He does a lot of really cool shit. Check him out. I'd still love to meet with him one day. I know he comes back and forth to Ukraine. So if you got any connects with CivDiv, have him either tell me how to reach him, or maybe he'll reach out to me. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, this video says what civilians never understand about war. And I clicked through it a little bit, and I think it's really relevant to what we're doing here and what my channel's about. The whole purpose of this channel was to help foreign fighters find a solid unit here in Ukraine, so they don't come here, join maybe not the best unit, and then get hurt or die within the first couple of weeks they're in country. So we're going to watch this. Real quick, guys, our Discord is popping, man. I went into the Discord last night, and I was looking through the channels. We had like 20-something people in one of the channels, in voice chat channels, and they were viewing a video. They were all watching a video and talking and shit. I was like, this is so cool, man. Like, this is what it's all about. Creating this kind of a community where we can talk, stay in touch, stay updated on what's going on here in Ukraine. So there's so much. There's so many things that we do in this Discord. So if you're interested in joining that, the link is in the description below. Also, if you want to come to Ukraine, or you're already planning on it, you want to join a solid unit, hit us up over here at Azov, specifically Azov's International Battalion. That link will be in the description below as well. Let's see what CivDiv's got going on here, huh? Whoa!
What civilians never understand about war. And to start off with, here's one that even veterans might not know, which is that front lines are not set in stone. At places, they span in either direction by 15 kilometers, and in others, they're 100 meters apart. There is not a soldier placed every 2 meters on the front line checking for Russians. It's pockets of bunkers, even kilometers apart, with overlapping sectors of fire. And in the age of drones, this is even less so. And you can, like I did at the beginning of the war, walk a kilometer into Russian-occupied territory without even knowing it, or firing my rifle. This happens all the time. Patrols slip in through the cracks, and they'll find themselves very deep into enemy territory on both ends. War is not infantry anymore. It is drones. I've said this on my channel.
This is just verbatim of what I talk about on this channel about this conflict. So this is really cool to have CivDiv talk about it, and then we could talk about it since CivDiv's talking about it. So the lines, in so many videos I talk about how the front line is not like World War I style, like very, very set in stone, like there's a line and there's a line, and they're very deliberate, they're very obvious. No, dude, the line is like this, right? You can have Russians and Ukrainians in the same village, just a couple houses apart. Like, it's very chaotic, it's very sporadic. Also, like he said, you can have 2 soldiers holding an entire tree line that's like a kilometer long. 2 soldiers, Ukrainian or Russian. They could be what's holding that entire tree line and holding that part of the front line, right? So that's another reason you see the lines change so often, is if a Ukrainian unit goes in, takes out these 2 Russian soldiers, or takes them prisoner, boom, that whole kilometer is now blue. That whole kilometer tree line, that Posadka, is now, that part of the front is Ukrainian. Bang, that changes on a deep state map, right? Or whatever you watch to monitor the front lines.
Many times, but most of the deaths are from drones, either directly or indirectly, like it's calling in artillery. That's something I've noticed on my channel a lot recently, which is that people really want to see that infantry GoPro footage, but you're going to be hard pressed to find any nowadays. I mean, you're going to find it from Azov, you're going to find it from some other professional groups, but the reason is that drones are locking it down like crazy. It's not like the beginning of the war in Ukraine, 2022, 2023, where you can push up 50 meters away daily. That's something that happens only with a lot of preparation beforehand, taking out drone teams, a lot of reconnaissance, a lot of planning, route planning, because there's so much mines, and then eventually they can get in. And here's one that still people don't seem to understand, which is that combat, actually firing a rifle is like 1% of the job. Most of the job as an infantryman is not going to be shooting somebody in the face. It's going to be pulling logistics out of the truck and moving into the base. It's going to be building and working on your bunker. It's going to be training and waking up early and drilling. That is most of it. And in combat, it's mostly patrolling. It's mostly sitting down and being bored as artillery hits you. And when artillery hits you, it's almost always luck to survive. If you survive, you are a lucky person that day. When you hear that somebody went on a mission, just know that they didn't come back for anything short of a miracle. The amount of close calls is ridiculous, and it'll leave somebody getting shivers when they think about it for the rest of their life, including myself. Air superiority is still super important. Just like some may remember.
Dude, it gives me chills hearing him say that because it is absolutely so true. I talk about this so much, but like he said, when you hear somebody went on a mission, it's not like, you'll see in the movies where the Navy SEALs load up on the Black Hawk and they go in and they kick down doors and they smoke a couple terrorists. They hop back in the Black Hawk and roll out, and that's it. No, man. I mean, this is from the moment you step off. And what I mean by step off is start that mission. You get into that vehicle to infill into your position. From that moment on, you are in extreme danger, and there are going to be 1,000 different factors that could kill you from that moment moving forward. Okay, and this is why you see in this conflict, unlike so many other conflicts, is you could have the best trained, most badass soldier die on his first mission in Ukraine, and you can have the airsofter who played Call of Duty his whole life that came to Ukraine to try to do something and try to be more active, and this guy has been here since 22 and survived the whole time and been on 10 missions, right? It's luck. That airsofter was just luckier than that fucking that Delta Force operator, that Navy SEAL that was hurt or killed on the first mission. I've never ever been on an infill or an exfil where we were not taking enemy fire. Whether it was small arms fire, indirect fire from artillery, mortars, FPVs, you name it. Never, ever have I gone in or out of a position where it was like just smooth sailing.
Remember the Gulf War or anything doing with Iraq, having air superiority is the number one thing still. Russia has a much larger air force than Ukraine, but Ukraine's air defense systems still get the job done to keep them away from performing JDAM strikes right on infantry positions. So Ukraine might not be the best way to explain this, but look at what the US did to Iran, where they bombed all the missile silos, and they went hundreds of kilometers deep into enemy territory to conduct strikes. Plus, drones, they're in the air. They are a part of air superiority, once again proving the point. It is something many have heard, and it's only getting more so as war continues. There's always going to be a need for a rifleman. Unmanned ground vehicles and aerial drones are still coming out of the gate, and there's lots they will provide. But there's always going to be a need for a man to go into a tunnel or room and put a bullet through somebody's head. That'll never go away. Robot dogs or armed drones, they're a part of it, but they'll never have the ingenuity or the slipperiness as a human who's able to use his head and overcome even thermal imaging with an umbrella. Not everyone takes a video of what they're doing. The heroes that I look up to never took a video, or rarely do. It's not that it's wrong or right, but just take their word when they tell you a story. That is, if they aren't the type to embellish. Speaking of that point, yes, many veterans lie, but sometimes it's true lies. I would never do that, especially having a YouTube. My accountability is right in front of you, and the countless people who've witnessed what I talk about publicly. But there are people who should have shut their mouth long ago, but keep going on with their lies. Just remember, not everyone is a Navy SEAL or a sniper, so be careful and ask for credentials if it's important. There's no music in war.
Oh, dude, he's just fucking dropping bangers in this video. How many times have we talked about everyone in Ukraine is a fucking Navy SEAL, right? It doesn't matter if it was in, well, you don't get this as much in Azov because Azov does some pretty serious background checks. So if somebody comes in claiming they were a fucking SP or SAS soldier or operator, we're going to check that. We're going to check that diligently. We're going to check that diligently. That's a strange word there. But in the Legion, dude, they didn't check shit, right? So you got people coming in, they're like, yeah, I was SEAL Team 33, I was in, Delta Force Berets. And the people who were legit, very rarely would they tell you about their prior service and their experience, right? And just like he says here, some of the quietest people who haven't taken a video once while they're in Ukraine, they've been here for 3+ years, they are the most humble. If there's somebody brand new and they're asking questions like, how do I do this? How do I do this? These guys are the first ones to help them out. These experienced guys will help them out. There's this misconception that, like, if you act like you're so much better than the new guys, that means that you're more experienced. You're more of a badass soldier. No, dude. The real deal mother effers are humble. They help out the new guys. They are not above any task, right? They'll go sit in a trench the same as an infantry soldier like me, or like I was in the Legion, or a Ukrainian soldier holding the line in a trench. They'll go do that job the same as they'll go assault a position. So, spot on, Sibdib, dropping bangers.
No glory. It's just panic. There's no main character or protagonist. It's people with a job doing that job. Some are better than others, but that's about it. Going on with that, even for infantrymen, most of the time it's just a normal job. You wake up, you do some training or load up logistics, you work on a base. That's the majority of the time. I already kind of spoke about that, but definitely worth saying again. War eats everything. I think it's something that everybody already saw in Gaza, but also in Ukraine. I found that civilians oftentimes underestimate how much war consumes. It's not just lives and lives of soldiers, but economies, families, future generations. In Ukraine, entire towns are erased. Infrastructure is destroyed. Farmland is mined. It is not just fighting soldiers. It is society being ripped apart. Another one I've heard is riflemen, infantry are stupid.
He's going to break that shit down. It's so true, man. We've seen scenarios here on both sides, really, but Ukraine has a much smaller population, so it's that much more detrimental. So you'll see an 18-year-old son get killed in this conflict. His father, who was in his mid-30s, was killed as well. And then his father, who was in his mid-50s, was killed. That's an entire generation of human beings erased from this planet. A whole bloodline and last name worth of humans in history erased. That is so devastating to me, because leaving a legacy behind is, I think, for a lot of men, so important. We all know we're not going to be here forever. Some of us know we're not going to be here for very long. But leaving a legacy is something that they'd like to do. Leave some amazing children in the world, or some amazing accomplishments that they've achieved. And when you just wipe out a whole bloodline like that, oh God, it breaks my heart, man.
It's absolutely false. There's so much going on in an infantryman's head when he's on the front line, much more than the danger and shooting a rifle. You have to understand ballistics, you have to understand patrolling techniques, you have to understand communication, how to follow a leader, you have to understand dispersion, you have to look around you and do all this live. They're brothers, husbands, and fathers, not just some low-income, uneducated people, but rich and affluential. In the units that I've been in alone, I've served or been alongside men who were orphans. I've been around professional jewelers, kindergarten teachers, movie directors, photographers, painters, full-time soldiers, captains, sheriffs, and there's been me, who grew up in a middle high-income family and neighborhood where I could have become an engineer. They are not dumb. They are just maybe less risk-adverse. We're told to go here and do this when the country is
less risk-adverse. I like that. Basically saying they're willing to go run into the enemy fire. I like that, though. Less risk-adverse.
They're drafted. Everything a soldier has, he carries into battle.
Okay, hold on. I want to break that down too, because it's huge. In this conflict, unlike a lot of others, your infantryman is not only an infantryman. Your infantryman is also a medic, and he's also a sapper, and he's also your machine gunner if he has to be, and he's also your anti-armor personnel if he has to be, right? Because of this conflict, infantry soldiers need to be cross-trained in damn near everything, to be honest, because there are times where At any given time in a conflict zone here or on the front here in Ukraine, they could need one of those skills. If he's retreating and he's got to haul ass to a different position, he's got to be somewhat of a sapper. He's got to be looking for homemade tripwires and booby traps, and he needs to know not to pick up that energy drink can right there because that could be a homemade booby trap. He needs to know these things, right? And then while he's running and he's moving in this position, there could be a fucking enemy APC pulling up. He's got to know how to use that bull spike on his back or the RPG that's on that dead soldier over there. Boom. He's also your explosives expert or your anti-armor personnel. Same with the machine gunner, right? If your machine gunner goes down, other people need to know how to do that because that will be, in the rare circumstance that you are in a firefight, that's going to be your leg up on the enemy. So you need to also know how to pick that shit up and fire back. So you get what I'm saying? And also I said medic. Infantrymen also have to be medics because if you get popped or you get injured or you blow your foot off on a mine or something, how do I say this without just being super pessimistic? You need to know how to administer first aid at a high level. Self-aid, at a high level. You need to know how to slap chest seals on yourself. You need to know how to apply a tourniquet, not only one, but maybe 2 or 3 tourniquets on your body. You need to know, I'm trying to think of things that you could do yourself. You need to know these most important medical life-saving interventions and be able to perform them on yourself because, like I said, if you go down, there's 1, 2, 3 Russian surveillance drones watching you and waiting for your friends or your combat medic to come get you so they can drop another grenade or send another FPV at you, right? You need to be able to fucking tourniquet up and hopefully crawl your way into a safer location. So there, you've got to be kind of a combat medic too. So it's much different. In Western militaries, there's very, very specific rules, and these roles are, they have a hard line. There's a hard line drawn in the sand where you're a machine gunner. That's what you fucking do. Okay, you're not running over there and performing medical interventions on this guy if you don't have to, right? Much different here.
It weighs a lot, and it is exhausting. They're maybe less risk adverse. We're told to go here and do this when their country was invaded. They're drafted. Everything a soldier has, he carries into battle. It weighs a lot, and it is exhausting. You have to patrol there with all that gear. So when you watch this combat footage, it's not like Hollywood where they have unlimited ammunition and they aren't burdened by 15 kilometers carrying 80 kilos of gear. The reality is they are human and it is their job. It's real life and there's no actors. Hand-to-hand combat isn't that huge of a deal.
Shit's so heavy, dude. Shit is so heavy. You know, you would think infantrymen, we get this question, we get this a lot, this misconception a lot when new people ask about, hey, I want to be a mortarman, or I want to be on heavy weapons team, or I want to be a drone operator because they think they might be able to get around some of that, the long infills and carrying, 16 full magazines, blah, 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 right? Because your average infantry soldier is very heavy. But oftentimes, these drone operators and these heavy weapons teams are carrying the same stuff an infantry soldier is, but also they're carrying their backpack full of FPVs or drone equipment, or they're carrying an M240 Bravo because they're on heavy weapons team, or they're carrying the M240 Bravo ammo. So these guys, in a lot of cases, are actually heavier than an infantryman. At the very least, they're the same as far as the amount of weight that they have to carry into your position.
Yes, it is a good idea to have a background of it, grappling at least, and it could come down to that. But even in very close situations, a meter away, I've heard from my friends and I've seen online, you'll probably be engaging with a rifle, not slitting his neck with a knife. Deaths are not usually quick. It is minutes or hours or days of being targeted, and then you get hit. And you know you're going to get hit. And then you're badly wounded for 30 minutes or even days. Unless you're hit in the head, which is one of the smallest parts in your body, and you have a helmet on you. But maybe you took shrapnel to your helmet and it was enough to knock you out and then you're bleeding out because it hit an artery. Or maybe you're super unlucky and it hit straight into your temple. But usually people die very slowly. It's gruesome stuff. Stuff that makes even trained soldiers or drone pilots throw up when they see it. It is really bad, and you get a taste of it on YouTube, but you don't get the full picture. Explosions don't launch.
We've got a lot of unedited war footage on our Discord page, and it's tough for me to even go into that channel sometimes because it is tough to watch.
You feel a punch to your chest, it hurts and stuns and rocks your brain, which gives soldiers traumatic brain injuries, but that's about it. Unless it lands right on top of you, you're not going to be thrown 10 feet in the air. You're going to be pushed to the ground at the very most, in most instances. It depends on the bomb. And to hammer in that point, the last point, grenades are not that powerful.
Yeah, I want to touch on that too, but when he was mentioning hand-to-hand combat, I think that's always a good skill to know. If you're in any kind of a combat environment, you should have a basics knowledge of some kind of a martial art or fighting experience, in my opinion. Now, like he said, it's probably a micro percentage of a chance that you'll ever end up using that, but that micro percentage of a chance, you want to know how to do some shit if you end up in that micro percentage. There was a situation, if you guys have seen it, and it was a few days ago, but a Ukrainian soldier was captured by the Russians and they slit his throat. But some people, I don't think, realize how hard it is to actually slice a throat for a kill. You could slice the skin. This could get me this video in trouble, but you could slice the skin, right? Skin, everybody knows, is relatively easy to cut. But to get into somebody's actual windpipe or jugular vein, it takes quite a bit of force. So these Russians slit this Ukrainian's throat. They didn't do it all the way. This Ukrainian crawled his ass all the way back. It was like 3 or 5 days of crawling with his throat slit back to his friendly position where he was saved. And now he is saved and he is healthy and he is okay. Holy shit, dude.
It depends on the variant. Like the American M67 uses a more potent explosive than the Russian F1, but neither is going to blow up houses. It's not going to knock you to the ground. Its explosive is meant to launch very, very small shrapnel into the air at high velocity, not to level buildings or bunkers or throw somebody into the air. And that's about all I want to say today. I hope you guys enjoy.
Very true. I've thrown grenades into foxholes and trenches that, I mean, we're talking feet difference from where that grenade exploded and where I was taking cover, right? Kind of like just drop it over, and then you just hunker down, and there's a big dirt mound in your way, so you know it's not going to hit you. That shockwave is going to, you'll feel that, but grenades are not like in the video games where you throw one and it blows up a whole fucking house, right? You throw a frag. There's not there, and it's actually became almost an issue in some cases on both sides of the war because it has caused infantry soldiers to makeshift different kinds of larger handmade explosive devices like satchel charges, homemade satchel charges, to actually demolish a bunker or a foxhole because an F1 grenade won't do it or an RGD-5 won't do it. You've heard of these non-stop bombs, which look like they're like a gray, they look like an energy drink. They're like a gray cylindrical can shape, and they're heavy, and they can be thermobaric explosives. They have plastic explosives in them, and they are much stronger than a frag. So yes, frags, I think, really came to light in this conflict that it's not like the movies. They will fuck you up if it lands on you, rolls by your foot, rolls next to you, will absolutely kill you. But it's not like what we see in media and shit.
Hope you learned something. And I just want to say, I'm not mad at you if you don't know these things. I'm just speaking as if I'm saying some things that I think maybe you didn't know. So anyway, thanks for listening. Talk to you guys in the next one.
Dude, so cool that he did this video, and he's touched base on all this stuff at different points in his different videos, kind of like I have, right? But putting it all together like this into one video is so important because these are such critical information to know if you plan on coming out here to Ukraine. So many people think they're going to come out here, they're going to join the Legion or Azov or 3rd Assault Brigade, and they're going to be, just in nonstop firefights and like slitting throats. And no, man, it is, there's like this inside joke or this inside conception within infantry units and assault units that if you get into a firefight, man, that's a good day. That is a good fucking day because it does not happen very often, if ever, and that's what we all want, right? That we train a lot for that. Also, I'm going to say this, and this will be controversial, but I'm willing to say in 80% of situations where a firefight will ensue, foreign fighters are going to win that firefight. And this is based off of what I've seen. Foreign fighters are just much better in a gunfight. They're better at putting down a shit ton of fire very quickly, sending 40 mics and rockets and explosives at the enemy before they even know what's going on. And I can say that same for Ukrainian units that are trained for firefights, right? A lot of these Russians are not trained for this kind of stuff. So in the instances where a firefight does happen, we win those. It's after we win those and the Russians already have that location TRP'd, target reference pointed, because that was a friendly position, then they start sending a shit ton of artillery and mortars and FPVs is when our guys could get hit or injured, or the Ukrainians get hit or injured. But very rarely is it during the firefights. This is a badass video, dude. CivDiv, thank you, my friend. I somehow managed to make your 7-minute video. I yapped through it and made it almost a 30-minute video. But this is great stuff. Also, this footage that he shows, this is his shit, man. CivDiv's the real fucking deal. So go follow his channel. And also subscribe, follow, like, do all that shit on this channel. And jump in our Discord. Links in the description. And the Azov application is in the description as well. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.